Hey everyone, in a previous video, I shared my experience shooting a car ad for General Motors, and it really sparked a lot of this question. How do you even land this kind of shoot? It's a question I hear all the time by my consulting clients, from those just starting out to seasoned pros looking to level up their game. Well, today, we're going to peel back the layers of landing these dream photography jobs, and I'm breaking it down into two essential steps. So let's do this. Yes, just two steps, which works for any type of photography business, whether you shoot weddings, cars, portraits, whatever. Step one is to shoot your photography. Step two is to share your photography. And I know this sounds ridiculously obvious, but what's the catch? First, let me explain how there are actually two huge steps, which I'll break down in detail throughout this video. And along the way, I'll also dispel a few myths, things that I've repeatedly seen lurking around social media, and also from my consulting clients that usually make me go, I can see why you may think this way, but it really doesn't work like that in real life. So if you find value in this video, please consider giving it a like and also subscribing to this channel. I greatly appreciate your support. And if you need some help specific to your own photography journey, I do offer private consultations bookable by the hour. Let's start with step one, shooting, or more precisely, building your portfolio, which is the result from lots of shooting. And if it sounds obvious again, it's actually a lot more than just a collection of some nice photos. It's about crafting your calling card, a process that I could take years to build and a whole career improving. Just think of the months it takes a restaurant to develop a new menu, or the years for a car brand to create a new car, costing millions. A photographer's portfolio should be treated the same way, a body of work that represents the essence of the artist. So let me share with you how I break my portfolio down. There are three key steps: my library containing a lot of my images, my website with less images, and the custom portfolio with even less. Starting with my library, this is my treasure chest filled with all my good, finished work, ready to show. Doesn't matter if it was a paid gig or a personal project, as long as I'm proud of it, it goes in the library. Currently, at about 400 images, my library contains images shot with different styles, intent, looks, and feel. Usually, I replace outdated images with newer ones to maintain this quota. Now, I should clarify that my library is more of a storage vault to keep my images. Storage only, not for showing people, which is where my website comes in. So let's talk about that next. My website is my professional home on the web. I select about 150 images from the 400 in my library for my website. I narrowed down for two reasons. Number one, showing all of my library's 400 images is pure overload. It would be like cooking too much food for your guests. They'll be overstuffed way before dessert. The ideal way is to show just enough images that the viewer finishes fully satisfied with a smile on their face. The second reason is more important because showing good photography actually isn't enough. I repeat, showing good photography isn't enough to get car advertising shoots. You need good and consistent work. And by consistent, I mean a continuous feeling to your work. This is super important because ad clients are only asking one question when looking at your portfolio, which is, will my photos look like these if I hire this photographer? If your website shows a tight, carefully curated collection of consistent work, then the viewer will better understand where your photography is rooted. If your work is disorganized and all over the place, a client may not see what makes you tick. Which brings me to myth number one, where I see photographers trying to show as much variety as possible to appeal to as many clients as possible. This is the classic case of jack of all trades, master of none. And being a jack of all trades is fine for smaller jobs because quite often, small jobs are for clients who just need some nice photos that many photographers can actually shoot. But advertising clients are different. They always want a specialist with a very distinct body of work so that they can best match the project they're working on to a specific photographer. Therefore, there's no point for photographers trying to please every potential client. It's impossible to know what they like or don't like, or what kind of photographer they're looking for specific shoots. So don't even bother trying. Otherwise, you're spreading yourself too thin. Each photographer, like you, already has a signature look within yourself, wanting to come out. And it's actually you, the photographer, preventing this signature from revealing itself, because you can't help but be influenced by external forces like trends or what other photographers are shooting or what other people's opinions of your work are that will ultimately control how you shoot. So I dare you to let nature take its course and shoot freely without any constraints, and hopefully take your photography to a whole new level. And there's no better way to show your signature than from your own website, which are a dime a dozen these days. So there's really no excuse not to have one. At the bare minimum, you should at least put your work on Behance, a free service owned by Adobe. And if you're a paying Creative Cloud user, which I assume most Photoshop and Lightroom users are, there's the option to use Adobe Portfolio to create a simple website, because it doesn't need to be complicated or fancy. In fact, clients prefer simple and easy anyway. The next level up is a subscription service website like Squarespace or what I use, Photofolio. Not sponsored by either, by the way. Again, nothing super fancy or complicated. Just a simple, efficient, and clean way to see good photography. I read somewhere that someone visiting a photographer's website should not have to click more than 3 times to see an image enlarged to fill the browser window. Even better with less clicks. My website requires only 1 click, and I can show you this with a quick tour. There's a 3 to 4 second intro splash page which automatically loads into the main thumbnail gallery, where I organize my work into groups, each group relating to a project or job. I mainly shoot automotive and some portraiture, so I don't feel the need to categorize my subject matter and just combine my car and portrait thumbnails together. I feel it actually sends the viewer a message that my photography process is the same regardless of what I shoot. So in my case, I shoot cars like people or people like cars. The thumbnails are automatically looping to give a quick idea of what's inside each gallery. Clicking on each thumbnail presents individual images controlled by left or right arrows on the screen, cropped in any way I want in high res and high quality, which can't be said when showing photography on Instagram nor any other social media platform. A perfect transition to myth number 2, which is the common belief that Instagram is your portfolio, or in other words, that social media can replace a dedicated photography website. Well, it can't, because a photographer needs both, in my opinion. Just like being a jack of all trades, you might get away with only using social media for small jobs, but a website is required to show a portfolio's work in the best way possible to attract the larger clients. On one hand, having a website automatically validates and legitimizes a professional photographer, rising them above the unfortunate phony fakery prevalent on social media. On the other hand, it's also much safer hosting and controlling your own website, unlike being a client on social platforms that may come and go. Just like the recent 170 million people collectively freaking out in the US after putting all their eggs in the TikTok basket. To put it simply, I think social media should show your personality because social media is rooted in human interaction. So it's a perfect fit, and all interactions should be directed to your website, where your photography is displayed in the best way. Take my shoot for Audi's A6, for example. I had the story and grid posts on Instagram for reach and attention, which will direct viewers to my website where said images are displayed much larger. And finally, the third stage in my portfolio, the custom portfolio. This is where things get strategic. When a specific opportunity comes up, I tailor a portfolio that directly addresses the client's needs. This is about demonstrating my understanding of the project and my ability to adapt and deliver what they're looking for. So let's say there's a potential job to shoot a car on location, at nighttime, lit mainly by ambient light, just like the Chevrolet shoot. So it would be great if I can put together a portfolio showing only these types of images, which they will present to their client, the car brand, for final approval. A lot is riding on if the photographer has enough images showing this exact type of work to convince the client. And while the client may have already seen a few images on my website that tickled their initial interest, they will most likely need to see more, maybe 5 to 10 images of these exact shots to convince them to award the shoot to me. So the question is, do I have enough of these specific images? This is where we come full circle and see if there are any images in my library I can use in addition to what's publicly visible on my website. Totaling 5 to 10. And these are what I have in my library and website combined. If they find these acceptable, then I'm still in the running to get the job. But if I don't have enough, I'm eliminated. So one big takeaway about portfolios is to shoot a lot in order to build a library of a few hundred ready-to-go images, because you never know what a client may be specifically looking for an upcoming shoot. The math is quite simple. You may need to start with a few thousand images to narrow down to a few hundred good ones for your library. And that's a lot of shooting, probably more than what photographers may think. So far, I hope this is a good information to help you build your amazing portfolio. To go beyond this point is to factor in every photographer's unique situation and circumstance. So drop me an email if a consult suits your fancy. Now let's move on to the sharing your portfolio part. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's about marketing, getting your work out there, and building your brand. I'll start by letting you know that I've already made 2 other YouTube videos about marketing for photographers, in case you didn't know. This one is about different types of car photography jobs for photographers just starting out. Lower end, smaller jobs, which you can view by clicking here. And this one specifically talks about how to prepare yourself to shoot larger jobs for car brands, like ad campaigns. What you need to know and what skill sets you need to have in order to even qualify for these types of advertising clients. So I highly suggest watching these videos. But here, I will add this super important point about marketing, the relationships you have to build with clients. You see, it's not just about the photos. It's about the connection. It's about building trust, establishing rapport, and creating a positive experience for everyone involved. Clients value professionalism, honesty, and someone they enjoy working with. And I'm going to bust my own myth here, myth number 3, because when I started shooting professionally, I thought that photographers are only judged purely on our work, our creativity, technical and artistic skills, etc. Boy, was I wrong. And it took me years to figure out it's not true. Clients care about your work and your personality. So which do you think is more important, a photographer's work or personality? I used to think that the work matters more than anything else. But after running a photography business for many years, I can confidently say that personality, or more specifically, the relationship built between a photographer and a client, that matters most. Why? It boils down to what clients value, as in what they think are important qualities in a photographer. Now, all clients value a photographer who is fair, honest, an all-around nice and professional person. But not all clients value good photography, especially for lower-end and smaller jobs, because quite frankly, those clients don't know enough to judge what good photography is. Sometimes they just need good enough photography, which is probably a dime a dozen. But higher-end clients are different because they do know about photography, such as an ad agency's art director or art buyer, whose job is to know how to judge photography and how to hire photographers. So in other words, for higher-end shoots, clients do place a higher value in the photographic quality. Maybe not for smaller jobs, but clients always value a good relationship with the photographer, regardless if the project is high or low end. And therefore, relationships are more important because it always is a criteria no matter the job, which is exactly what happened leading up to the Chevrolet shoot for GM China. The job didn't simply land on my lap out of the blue, but was instead the result of a long process building a relationship with the client. In fact, it took 2 years to get this job after meeting them for the first time during my initial trip to Shanghai, specifically to meet people. And within these 2 years, we discussed other possible shoots which didn't pan out for one reason or another. So this GM shoot was actually the 3rd try, so I guess there's some truth to 3rd time's the charm. If you want to see more of the behind the scenes of this video, click right here. Or if you'd like to chat more about your photography journey, feel free to drop a comment below or email me to schedule a consultation. Thanks for watching, and happy shooting and sharing.